You're listening to the Detroit is Different podcast network.
Maybe you need to reflect, so we both can progress. That's just the way I feel. That's just the way I feel. To hell with your fake.
Welcome back to the Piper Carter podcast. We are on Zoom, giving you Zoom audio this time. Normally we're at the Detroit is Different studio, but we are practicing our social distancing in this time of COVID-19. And I am here with my co-host, Brittany March. Hey, what up, Brittany?
Peace, Pipe.
How you doing?
Pipe.
You good?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good. And Deja. What's up,
What
Deja?
up, though? I'm good. How are you, ladies?
Good.
Deja. How you doing?
Good. Just chilling, trying to get through this madness.
Yeah. So it's interesting because normally we're like staring at each other with this like really cool microphone setup. But right now I'm looking into a computer screen and it's just a bit different. So I guess
Yeah,
things
we're
will
in
be
the
like this
virtual
for a
world.
minute, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
It's
kind of
cool.
cool, though. I mean, I think it's still effective.
It's still effective, right?
Different.
Yeah.
But we get to lay around in our pajamas and bonnets and talk. And, we don't have
Yeah,
to scrape the elements and save gas. Those are positives.
that is true.
But I do miss the Detroit is Different studio.
For sure.
Yeah,
Shout out Kyrie, right?
Shouts out to
Shout out,
Kari.
Kari.
And also Jira and
Hi,
Jack.
Jira.
Yeah, and all the other podcasters too.
For sure.
Yeah. So Brittany, before all this started, you actually set us up in a really good way. You made this entire organized way that we do our podcast now. So thank you for that. And
Of course.
yeah, this is awesome. So I wanted to see, well, first of all, I want to see how you guys are doing. Like, how are you guys dealing with everything? Like, what's going on in your lives? And I'm going to start with you, Deja. Like, what's life been like for you since we did the last podcast, which was over a month ago?
For me, life has been pretty stagnant. I would say I don't have the same structure that I used to when I was on like a consistent, work schedule. So my life is kind of like a free-for-all right now. I wake up and I just have no responsibilities, and it kind of feels weird, but I'm taking advantage of it. I sleep a lot, so that's cool.
Yeah. So, what are you doing, like, to fill your days?
So pretty much I read or I'll just surf the internet about whatever I can find related to the COVID or just other topics. I've been watching a lot of tutorials about like random stuff or just like painting stuff.
Yeah. So, what about you, Brittany? What's it been like for you? It's like for the last month.
Life has been, I would say, a break. It's been, I think, something. Unfortunately, it was well needed. I mean, as far as like trying to find peace and positivity and within the negative realm, So, I've been able to kind of, to Deja's point, just catch up on sleep. I've also, I'm still working from home, so it's giving me the ability to have a lot of undistracted time from like actually going in the office. The fact that I'm able to like kind of like wake up, do my like, wash my face, brush my teeth routine, and then like sit in front of a computer versus having to put on clothes and drive into the office has been really nice. So that's been cool, but work is by default kept me on some type of a morning routine. And other than that, I just have gotten really focused on the paperwork part of It's Food Detroit.
Which is your company, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, shout out to Sanaa. And I've taken a lot of time and invested a lot of time in the looking at the numbers with that and reaching out to everyone that's given us an opportunity. Shout out to like all the businesses that I know are going to need a lot of support to get things back rolling. But I've taken a lot of time to reach out to them and to check on them and thank them for everything that they've done for us in the last six and a half months. Started working out. That's helped me a lot mentally. Started writing a lot of music. Actually, not writing music, but like recording music that I've like as a hobby, of course, that I've just like have always wanted to record. And that's it. Just getting back into a rhythm, just because I've been off of one for so long. That's really it. Is just trying to be disciplined. That's my area of struggle, and I'm just trying to use this opportunity to overcome that. So,
okay,
yeah.
Well,
What about you, Pipe?
I've been doing so much stuff. Like y'all know me. It's like I told myself, I'm going to just relax, and then I'll do like 50 million things. But and maybe that's the way I relax. But thank y'all for, you know what I'm saying, like sharing a little bit of, you know, what life has been like for you, because it's been different, right? For like everybody. For myself, I moved my activism to the computer. I mean, actually, when we had the last show, like that week, that was over a month ago. Well, that week, I actually went to my mom's senior building, got her, brought her to my house, moved her in, and went to the grocery store and the bank, or maybe the bank and then the grocery store. And then we've been social distancing and self-quarantine like ever since. And then I think Detroit was a bit late, in my opinion, to like shut down. Well, how do y'all feel about that? Like Michigan, comparatively, I feel like Michigan kind of shut down kind of late.
I feel like we shut down when the rest of the country did.
Yeah.
I don't know, because my job was shutting down before Governor Whitmer made her declaration the first time. So
what about
I don't know.
Brittany?
I feel like maybe we were late, but it all kind of crept up kind of fast. We went from 2 cases to 25 within like 2 days. So I just remember it after reaching a certain point, like I don't know if it was 100 or not. It seemed like at least a lot of businesses started to like get ready for and shape up for it. So I say Michigan was like not fast or quick, but I wouldn't say that they were like super behind the 8 ball.
Well, did y'all notice that they didn't shut down the businesses or the restaurants and stuff until the day after St. Patrick's Day?
I'm honest. Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, yeah, that was like that first week. Yeah. I
thought the bars were shut down on St. Patty's Day, because I remember a few coworkers were upset that they couldn't turn up like they wanted to, unless they were just going to practice social distancing.
It was like a week before.
No, go to pictures. Yeah, go to pictures, and you'll see everybody was turning all the way up on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, but I think she did put an executive order out, didn't she? Like,
I thought
St. Patty's Day?
It was after. It was after that. Because they had St. Patrick, like they had I think they didn't have the parade, if I'm not mistaken, but they had
no, they didn't.
They had all the bar nights, and so the bars and stuff were full. That was like that Saturday, and then that
was March 15th or 16th.
Yep, the 15th, and so then the 16th she shut down the bars and everything, and then if I'm not mistaken, it was that Monday that she shut down, that she asked for the stay-at-home order.
That's facts. I think she lightly was asking people before St. Patty's Day not to kick it, and I think it was like a restriction, like no more than 50 people or 100 people, and people exceeded the limit. And then that's when she shut down everything. Yeah. And then that's when, like you saying, that Monday she was like, stay-at-home order in place.
Yeah, because we saw Ohio.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, okay. It just felt like, okay, we about to be next. But I came front. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask y'all a question. For me, I was like, during that time period, it was all types of things like they're going to send the National Guard there. Because we saw on the West Coast, they were sending the National Guard to like make people stay at home and all that. And truth be told, they've gotten money from FEMA to build this hospital that's going to be in the TCF Center. If folks don't know what the TCF Center is, it used to be named Cobo Hall, which in Detroit is our huge convention center. But downtown, if you've ever had a convention there, we had the Women's March there, and all types of huge conventions are there.
Auto show, right?
Auto show. And then stuff was being canceled, right? So pretty much everything's canceled. But they were saying that they weren't going to get the National Guard, but she actually, with that FEMA package, the Army Corps of Engineers comes with that to like create and build what the hospital is going to be. And also 3,000 National Guard got sent to Michigan. Now, none of them actually got sent to Detroit. They got sent to Ann Arbor and a couple of other cities. But in the land of a National Guard, that might as well be Detroit, right? Because it's literally like right here in a couple minutes. But I wanted to get y'all's reaction, because the first thing that I'm thinking is, I'm like, okay, if they were just building a hospital just because they need a hospital, they could get any engineers, right? Why do they have to get the actual Army Corps of Engineers? And why do they have to get the National Guard that they have to do humanitarian duties? I'm gonna put quotes around that, which is like,
right,
deliver water, like deliver food and things like that. But we have something called a Peace Corps who does exactly that in other countries. But Trump actually has fired the 7,500 Peace Corps, and so he's basically defunded and gotten rid of the Peace Corps, which their job was to do humanitarian efforts. So I know y'all haven't read the story or anything like that. I just want to ask y'all reaction to all that.
I mean, I would say the conspiracy theory part of me, you know how we have like basically two brains. You look at YouTube videos and you see all these different conspiracies, and you're like, I wouldn't doubt that. So like the part of me that wouldn't doubt anything thinks that, like, again, this is like a fire drill or some type of simulation, and they want to see things that they're able to enact and how they're able to enact it. Some things look good on paper, but if you aren't able to really simulate it, that you don't know where you really, your power is, or, what you need to improve on. So I wouldn't doubt it if it was like some type of simulation, the fact that they're using the National Guard. But the political correct part of me would say that it's easier to employ the National Guard because there is a process for them. They're able to come in, and if there's a worst case scenario, again, we jump from reported, I have, air quotations, of 0 to 25. 25 seemed like it turned into 1,000. So if you employ the National Guard, you're guaranteed that backbone of support if things were to go through the roof. So that's my political correct side. That's my conspiracy theory side.
What do you think, Deja?
Everything Brittany just said, plus the fact that maybe since like they're already contracted with the government, maybe it was easier to recruit them versus having to go get like private engineers and private contractors and things like that to build the hospitals. Maybe it was just easier. Maybe Trump, basically didn't go for the Peace Corps with us because he would have that on reserve for tax dollars. Maybe it was just simple for other dark reasons too.
Well, I'm gonna tell y'all what I think. I think the TCF Center, if you look at Detroit is, for those who aren't that familiar with the landscape, Detroit sits on the one of the freshest bodies of water in the world, and it is the TCF Center sits at the very bottom or beginning of Detroit, which is the city as a landmass, and so it's right there next to the water, and Detroit is right across from Canada. And so that piece right there is literally next to there's a tunnel that goes to Canada. Now, back in the day, we used to be able to go to Canada, and we used to go to Canada every weekend because all you really needed was your driver's license. And but after 9/11, they made it to where you need your passport, and then now, well, they had this enhanced driver's license that they had folks getting, and so long story short, they had tightened up the border. They also created Homeland Security and Border Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the Coast Guard there. We also have regular Detroit Police, Wayne County Sheriff, every other form of militarizational, state agency that's supposed to, keep folks in check is down and around there. But basically, I see it as almost like building a fort. So they had already closed off the water over this decade that they've been doing the emergency management here in Detroit, which is economic martial law. But they had already closed off the water to people. We used to have the festival down there. I don't know if you're kind
of course
young, but I don't know if y'all were able to enjoy when we used to have the cultural festivals there every weekend at Hart Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went through this transition period where they privatized all of that. And so now people have to rent, because the city used to do their festivals and stuff down there for communities, and different communities were able to share their culture. But now they privatized it, so you can't go down there, and they close at I don't know, was it 9:00 or something? You can't go there after a certain time, or else they'll, charge you with trespassing and things like that. And if you go to a certain part of the water, you get charged with some international crime because of the whole security issue. But anyway, I'm saying all that to say that's the stuff they had started putting in place after 9/11 and through emergency management. So what I see is in building out taking the COBO and getting the FEMA money to build out the TCF center. I see this like Katrina on steroids. And I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of what they're building. I mean, it's literally, it almost looks like, I don't want to say a graveyard, but it looks like a combination of a mix between an experimental lab and a graveyard. It definitely doesn't give you healing vibes, like a place where you would go to heal or get better. It doesn't give me that at all. There's 900 cubicles, 900 beds. The beds look exactly like prison bed cots. And it's I don't know if y'all ever been to the TCF Center, but it's a huge convention center, which basically just looks like a big old warehouse. And so it's just like a warehouse, tens of thousands of square feet. And
it used to connect to Joe Louis in one other place too, didn't it? The tunnels.
Sure it could. That I don't know for sure, but that doesn't.
Well, I'm just in regards to how you're laying it out. It is a dynamic build out. It's unreal.
Yeah,
especially
they turned all the staircases into ramps, and then now they knocked down the Joe Louis Arena.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so all of that is clear. So you have a clear vision. You know what I'm saying? And they built up the communication system on top of that thing. So now there's a huge tower with all this intricate surveillance on top of that thing, as if we didn't already have surveillance. So for me, I'm gonna be honest with you, it feels like the lessons learned from Katrina and some of the other things that they've done mixed with 9/11. And it just has a terrible, ominous feeling about, population control, genocide. And I'm just saying that because if you see the pictures of it, there's nothing healing about that place. You know what I mean? Like, in order for healing, you need green, you need,
But
loving.
you know they're not gonna do that, Piper.
I know they're not going to do it, but it's also like the one. It looks like we're a meat factory. It looks like where you take like a slab of meat, like you. I don't know if you've ever seen like where they have the freezer for meat, and there's just meat. It just what it looks. That's what it looks like. It looks like a meat factory. It's so scary. I'm like, oh my god. And on top of all of that, Detroit is a place where they're testing that drug, that malaria drug, and Henry Ford Hospital and Detroit collaborated, and they decided, oh yeah, bring the drug here, we try it on us. So Detroiters are being experimented on right now with this drug. It's just a lot. But that's my thoughts about it. That's my thoughts about it. So I don't know. I have to investigate. These are feelings I have based on articles I've read and pictures I've seen. So we have yet to be seen. Hopefully, this isn't the part in the film where the zombies start to come out and start eating people.
You're hilarious.
Let's hope not.
No, but I understand. It definitely is I'm looking at the pictures of it. I think the latter part of what you said, with it just it feeling like a mixture of the things that they've learned from, and then the things that they wanted to do in Katrina, or that they did do in Katrina, mixed with 9/11. I mean, I get that vibe from it too, and I think the way that I'm looking, it just looks, I don't know, like movie-ish, things that you do see in the movie,
Yeah, it's very eerie in that sense too.
Yeah, so I'm praying that it again isn't gonna, it isn't the end, like the proof, or like the step that makes it where people are going to actually fill this up and it's needed. I just hope it's not needed. I hope it's just as support. I hope things eventually die down. Hope it's all overkill.
It's not dying down, boo. I mean, they already told us this thing is a wave, and this one is supposed to have another outbreak in October, and they said this is just the first pandemic.
I know.
So that means like they got more in store for us.
I know.
Anyway, we could continue, but yeah. So okay, who has the next topic?
Well, just to keep touching on like that eeriness of it not being healing, I was going to say that CNN had this article today about Sinai Grace Hospital in Detroit.
Wow.
One of the employees there took a picture of one of the hospital rooms that had bodies stacked on top of each other. Actually, in this photo, there were just is a hospital bed, and it's like a full-size bed. So they have two victims in body bags laying next to each other on the bed, and then they have a body propped up in the hospital chair in a body bag, because they ran out of, like, the morgue was closed, so they basically couldn't take care of those dead bodies, so they're just stacking them up in vacant rooms right now. But then, of course, the hospital needs those rooms for the incoming sick patients that they have. So it's just a mess. They started building refrigerator units, and they built those on the parking lot of Sinai Grace. And even in there, they have bodies stacked on top of each other, because just the rate of death is so quick.
You know what? What's crazy and scary is, like, you feel like there's something underlying that, like, it just doesn't feel right about this, that we're not being told truthful information, and that we have to seek it, right? But what makes it even more frustrating when you're trying to, like, analyze and figure and sort things out is that people are really dying. Like, I know so many people that have died. At this point, it's like unreal. Like,
yeah.
Like, my mom has friends that have died, like 2 or 3 friends that have died. Like, my friend's mom just passed away. Like, my homeboy was in the hospital. He was a police officer. He was in the hospital dealing with it. It's just like, you can truly see it's affecting people. It's not like Sandy Hook where you weren't there, you know what I mean? And it didn't really settle in on you. Of course, it was dealing with kids, so you were empath because of that. But like when it comes to like not feeling that wasn't a true all the way truthful situation, is creepy. But the fact that it's truly, like when they say it's truly affecting Black people, the fact that you can look and see that it is the creepiest part. Like,
there's so many
it's really,
people. It's so many people that we actually know.
Yeah.
And so many people so many people we know, and so many people we know that know people. And it is every single day. I mean, I'll be honest with you, as a Black person from the hood, I am used to lots of messages of death, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, just because, whether it's what's going on with the police, or whether it's the folks in your family that have health disparities, or whether it's just street stuff, and then just other accidents, and car accidents, and just all types of stuff,
I hear
terrorism with the state. But even that level that I was used to of the everyday, this is just exponential on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the range of people who are passing are like 50 to 70 for real, right? Which these are the people that their last thing in life to do is to give back knowledge to us. They're like in that age realm where they can still be active, they can still fight for things, they can still talk to their grandkids, they can still do things that mean something to the generations after them. So the fact that we're losing that age group is very, very scary.
I think also too, what's interesting is, I don't know if y'all saw this, the dude, I think he was from was he from Texas? I can't remember which state. He's from the GOP, from the Republican, I think either House or Senate. And he basically was like, this quote unquote, we grandparents are willing to sacrifice our lives for this economy.
Yeah, I saw that guy. That was so creepy. Yeah, he was based in Texas, right?
I think it was Texas. So
yeah,
this is
I'm like
what? This dude is crazy, yo. Like, this is how they moving and grooving. But this is, I mean, also too, I don't know if y'all have ever heard these terms, useless eater. That's how they describe, poor people with disabilities, people that they feel are like living off the system and not contributing. Yeah. And so,
as they give everyone $1,200.
Right. People that are still employed.
Yeah, but I mean, $1,200, like, if you really think about it, that can't really do much. Right?
You said it can't do much?
Not really. If you're a working person and you have a household, and I mean, I'd say in Detroit is lower than the national average in terms of income. So I'll say, they say the national average income is somewhere like 50, 60,000. Detroit's average income is like around 18, somewhere like that, like 17, 18. It's like Detroit's, average. I mean, people might be pulling in somewhere around $2,000 a month, right? 2,000 or so. And that wasn't even enough, to tell you the truth, for folks to live off of, to have their household. And so, yeah, like, now folks are being given like a fraction of, what they were already scraping by with. I mean, reading things about the economy, I've just seen where, and like, this is April, right? Think of how many people missed their payments in April. Wait till May comes. You know what I'm saying? Stuff is just going to be compounded. So I mean, and then, for the folks that now they're trying to do this whole thing, like get back to work, but they're only trying to push to get back to work to get the economy back going, because these medical experts are like, y'all need to be social distancing for at least the next like 3-4 months.
Pretty much.
If y'all really want to
we can't handle that.
The people can't handle that. Now in France, I don't live in France. I have friends in France. I'm just going by what my French friends are telling me. Their government is subsidizing them. Meaning, I don't think that they're getting their actual salaries, but I think they're getting enough living to get by. And they have so many other sort of social programs, like their health and some other things, that here in America, every single thing is privatized. And so we don't, have the same sort of systems in place for society to make sure that the most vulnerable are, protected. It's pretty much here, it's straight capitalism, every person for themselves, run for your life. Eat what you kill, or kill what you eat type. You know what I'm saying? So who knows what the economy is going to look like? I don't know, in what, like 2 months, or even 3 months, or 4 months. So I don't know. What are y'all thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be a mess when the ball gets rolling again. I think it's going to be a huge mess. I don't know. I just see everyone being overworked and stressed, and we'll get ill again because we aren't taking care of ourselves again. That's what I see.
What do you think, Britt? You there, Brittany? I see her on the podcast. I wonder, did we lose Brittany?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, now we can. So did you hear what Deja said?
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I can visualize what she's saying. I honestly don't have any strong predictions. Just because at this point it seems like it's a chessboard. Seems like there's like 2 or 3 different like wars going on. Internally, like meaning like our country, and then externally as well with China, and then other foreign like Africa. There's just so many things boiling in the pot that it's hard to just kind of like distinguish which direction it can go in. So I'm just here for the ride, I guess. I don't know.
Well, speaking of Africa, did you find your article yet?
Yeah. Can
you tell
me? Yeah, we just really touched on it here locally. I think, Hype, more than us probably. I think what Detroit is like still an 80% Black city. I know a few years ago we were like 85%, but it's been nationally highlighted, and then also locally highlighted that coronavirus is affecting our community, meaning Black people of color, African American, Afro-Latino, the Latino community. So from that angle, I just think that we started off, I think, as a people thinking that we were immune to it naturally just because of our genetic breakdown. So to see that it is actually a virus that can bypass, even if we do have stronger self-healing capabilities than other races, it's still, it seems weird that it's affecting us the most. So with that being said, there's a lot of back and forth articles that are highlighting the relationship between China and Africa, and then Africans that are existing in China currently, which, just a little back history, I say within like the last decade, 5 years to a decade, China has done a lot of investing in Africa. And I think that there's even an article that like shows that a lot of vaccines have been tried in Africa, along as Chinese investing into certain parts of Africa. But the article that I was kind of speaking to was showing like how there's restaurants that are not accepting Blacks or African Americans inside of certain Chinese fast food restaurants. There's videos of that. Then also, there's a certain part of China, I think it's southern China, where Blacks are being evicted out of their homes. They're being beaten in the streets. I don't know if there's a connection to China and Africans, that there's the connection that's here in America that, we're affected by it the most. And I don't know if they're racially profiling them because of that.
I think so.
Yeah. Or because right now, again, back to that boiling pot of trying to figure out where this all is going to land. It seems like people are still trying to determine the source of the virus. I think a couple days ago to a week ago, China said that it came from Africa. So first it started with them admitting about their wet, what is it? The wet market and the bats. Then you saw leadership in China come out and say that it came from American soldiers. So it's a lot of back and forth on, who should have acted faster, who didn't act fast, who had information and withheld it. Mm-hmm. And so just to see that an article went out about Africans being the one reasons why that the virus started, and then to see them, a week later being dealt a bad hand in southern China is weird. And then I think we talked about too, with all, to keep the connections going. The military games last year were held in Wuhan, China. So it just is like when you try to figure out what they're trying to figure out, which is where the source of the virus comes from, it's just like so much is just so much of a coincidence. How come all the conspiracy theories out there are from Wuhan, China? We looked at, what was that movie called, Deja?
West China. I can't remember what it's called.
But even the 2000, the Contagion movie too, right? Like being started in China, like all this like propaganda, it being China. And then, how the military games are randomly held in Wuhan, China, where every single, almost, I have to take a look, but most countries' military participated in that games. Those games have been going on for 5 years now, I found out. And basically it's the military version of the Olympics. And China gave this like amazing, these videos are on YouTube, and it's not much information because there's conspiracies that both the United States and China have tried to wipe the internet clean of information about the military games, but then you can still find the Wikipedia of the games existing. But they give this brilliant, amazing introduction that, that would make you fall in love with China. And then you see that the U.S. was a big contributor in the games. Like they had a lot of different athletes taking place in these games. So just trying to give you guys a little bit of like a vision on all the things that took place before this virus, actually started affecting us. And then how it's affecting people globally, people that look like us globally. It just makes you even more confused and makes you feel like what's really going on, Not confused from a sense of like not being able to see that there's a stench of bullshit, but how
bad
much
is it really?
How much bullshit is it?
Right.
So that's my piece.
I always say assume there's a whole bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Always. I always over assume.
Just know it's a whole bunch. I mean, thanks for that, Brittany. Because as we're social distancing, it could make people feel isolated. You know what I'm saying? And separate from others, and possibly only thinking about themselves or ourselves. And so I do think the more that we always talk about international and everywhere on this show, but I do appreciate that you brought us remembering that we are not alone. We're connected. to everyone on this planet. And we have people that look like us everywhere, like you said, that are continuing to be terrorized, you know what I'm saying, in the streets. Mm-hmm. And that relates because folks, you know, here in Detroit, in Flint, in Chicago, in New York City, in LA, and everywhere, our folks are being terrorized. So while they have the whole social distancing, many of these governors and mayors have also put out these curfews or these parameters around which people can be outside. And I know in Detroit, our mayor put out something where you get $1,000 fine if you're caught
like gathering.
Mm-hmm. Well, gathering, and I think like going to work if you're not doing an essential job, you know. And in Chicago, Flint, and some other places, I think the Bay, like Oakland, they have a curfew. So cops are actually out hunting young folks, Black men and young people that are out. And it's interesting because when I'm looking, I'm seeing people say, you know, people got all these things on their profile. It says, you know, what does it say? Save lives, stay home, or stay home, save lives. Yeah. Have y'all seen those banners and badges? And so the rhetoric or the banter online has been, y'all need to stay home. Why don't these people stay home? And that is controversial to me because some people don't have a home to go to stay in. Some people are safer not in their home. Mm-hmm. Some people's homes don't have water or don't have electricity, you know. So when we say like shelter in place, like some people don't have adequate shelter or don't have what they need in the place where they're living. And so some people
it is privileged to say stay home.
But it's also, you know, there's an assumption that you have all the things you need at home, right? Including secure, safe relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like we're seeing a lot of the domestic terrorism, you know, that people are going through, you know what I'm saying, in their homes, being elevated and escalated. And it's just some people are leaving home, honestly, so that they can have some peace. And I'm not saying that folks shouldn't obey the order of the 6 feet and all that, but I'm saying some folks need to go to the park. Some folks need to like get in nature. And honestly, the health experts are actually even suggesting that folks do go outside and go for walks and do go out and run and go to parks and get exercise. So all this curfew stuff, you know who the curfews are for.
Yeah, I do.
Because if you go to these middle-class suburban areas where the people have less melanin, they're all outside hanging out, doing garage sales, living their best life all times a day. And no one is going out there to tell them to go in the house. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just a continuation of more, and they're using this as an opportunity to do more, you know, snatching our rights, snatching our voices, snatching our democracy. And so we got a lot of work to do. What are y'all doing in there? Lighting a cigarette or something? What's that noise? I know. I'm just picking on you. I hear like a lighter or something.
You hear a lighter right now?
I did. I heard like a like all through the podcast, but it's all good.
Huh.
No,
you
but
heard it, Deja?
Well, I think, you know what I'm saying? Just long story short, there's lots more aggression from the state. you know what I'm saying, in the form of police terrorism and more laws. And there's less, you know, there needs to be more investment in getting these policies passed so that folks can have, right, like clean water, places to shelter, electricity, like the thing, you know, food, the things that they need. You know what I'm saying? So that if you want people to shelter in place, then make it so that people,
Give them
more
a
people
place.
can, right?
Right.
Give them a place to shelter. So I don't know. That was my 2 cents.
Totally agree.
So Deja, you had a topic you wanted to introduce.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to highlight these cool like battles that have been going on, courtesy of Swizz Beatz and Timbaland. So I think the first one, I'm trying to remember who the first one was. Was it, I can't even remember. I'm sorry, y'all. But the Jonta versus Neo, that was my favorite one, probably. Actually, no, Timbaland, or not Timbaland, but Primo and RZA had a really good one the other night. I wasn't awake to see it, but I saw like recap videos, and that was pretty hard.
Oh, I gotta check that one out.
They
Yeah,
say there's the one. I didn't get to see it, but that's what they say.
Yeah, I think so. Manny Fresh versus Scott. I can't think of his name either,
Scott
but
Storch.
Sky Storch.
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, Sky Storch was going in on that one.
Yeah, they said Scott Storch won.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Manny, honestly, Manny has his own lane and Manny has his own sound. So Manny kind of won in his own right, because when you're like, Manny didn't really make anything outside of like, you know, that New Orleans Cash Money sound. So I don't know. That was a weird battle, but it was still good. It's all about good music and good fun. So I've been enjoying myself watching all of them.
That's cool.
Wait, what was the Timberland one?
He hasn't had his own yet, as far as I know.
And what about, have any women had any?
Not yet. They wanted to do. I saw someone say online that they wanted to get Missy in a woman one, but then someone came back and said that Missy is just as tough as the dudes. So why does she need to go against a woman? And I completely agree. I feel like she could take on anybody. Missy Elliott has so much in her catalog, so
I mean, like,
I don't need to see her go up against a woman. Honestly, she can. I prefer to see her go against a man.
I think she would have beat Sky Storch low key.
High key. High key. That would have been a good battle too.
I think it's interesting. Like, I like to see, you know, more women doing the battles, the beat battles. I think that could be an opportunity, is to, you know, to have space for that to happen. So that's something I'm gonna investigate that a little bit, because
I have seen
a
more
lot
of the
women
women DJs I follow like doing live sets on Instagram too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been cool.
Yeah. And so what artists have you been checking out?
I've just been on my Spotify a lot lately. They've been recommending a lot of good stuff. Emma V and Alphamis just dropped a song called Energy that's really good, that I really like. This girl named KeiyaA, she's amazing. I've been listening to her album for weeks. It's called Give Me My Things. I'm sorry, it's called Forever Your Girl, and that's a great project. I love her album.
What's her name again, Deja?
KeiyaA. So it's spelled KeiyaA.
Okay.
And the project is 16 songs. It's great. She has some interludes on here, but it's a really solid project. She's singing. It's pretty much self-produced, and like she collaborated with a couple other producers on a few songs, but she pretty much did this, like, you know, she pretty much did the footwork for this album. So I really respect her, because, you know, you don't get to see a lot of women producers out here making like good music, in my opinion.
So
like,
is it,
you know, we have like Charity and Super Cool Wicked from Detroit. Yeah. I think she's from, I don't know where she's from actually, but it's just nice to see women making their own music. I love it.
Said she's a music producer?
Mm-hmm.
So
she made some of these beats on her album.
So
That's so dope.
is she singing or doing any vocals, or
Yeah,
is it all
she's
instrumental?
singing.
She's singing.
Nope, she's singing. She has a great voice. Power and emotion in her voice. I just love her.
No,
I
are
really
the
do.
lyrics free of misogyny?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then maybe we'll have her for. Can we have her for this episode?
Yeah, definitely. I'll find some tracks for sure.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. Promote her. Promote her rap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good. I love the message on it too.
What's the message?
Pretty much like give me my things. She has like I'll read you some of the track names. She has one called Heavenly, and that song is basically her saying that she doesn't have a lot of money in her account, but her love is heavenly. You know, she can heal anybody with her love. I Want My Things is basically about people giving her the respect that she's trying to demand. She has a song called Every Nigga Is a Star. That song is really good. It's just about how all of us are capable of so many things. Sometimes we kind of hold ourselves back. She has a song called Fuck With You. And that song is like basically about her significant other not passing the blunt to somebody else before they pass it to her first. So she has a few like random songs on here like that, but they're all feel good songs. Even the heavier songs with more emotion, they're still like feel good songs.
Wow,
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear.
I really love this project. Knowledge also dropped his project too, which is really good. Mostly beats. He does have some features on here by some singers and like some rappers. I guess he probably found off like YouTube and converted to like acapellas, but his project is hard too.
Okay,
Nice. Excited for that one too. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check that out. I'm looking forward to it.
Deja always come in with that fire. Okay.
Yeah, Deja has great music. She's a great curator of musicality. Well, I want to. I had a couple more things I wanted to share. One thing I definitely want to share is so while doing all this social distancing, I have been really, doing a lot of activism. And over the last year, I've actually been a part of this coalition here in Detroit. It's called Frontline Detroit. And it's pretty much a coalition of all the different environmental justice and climate justice organizations and organizers coming together. If you remember last year, we had a rally and a march at the Democratic National Convention. And then we've done a few different gatherings, and we were supposed to do a People's Movement Assembly, but right in the middle of organizing the People's Movement Assembly, COVID happened. And we shifted ourselves into doing emergency response to the Detroit water crisis that the water warriors have been fighting for almost a decade, which is an aggressive shutoff by the Detroit City Water and Sewage Department. And they had an initial plan to shut off 100,000 homes of water. And that had escalated up to about 140 something thousand. And so recently with the COVID, they tell us you have to have water to wash your hands. And that washing your hands and washing your clothes and washing your hair is a part of what's going to mitigate the disease. Right. And so what we're contending that there's roughly 10,000 people in Detroit that do not have access to water. And that's because the city of Detroit had done such an aggressive shutoff. And then the head of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, Gary Brown, said in one of the city council meetings, actually the first city council meeting that was an actual Zoom meeting where they met on Zoom about 3 weeks ago, that they actually have no way of knowing who is cut off of water because they purged their records of anybody that was cut off of water more than 1 year ago. And there's people who've been cut off of water like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And the water warriors and folks from Brightmoor Connection, Soup Kitchen, We the People Detroit, and others have been delivering water door to door since like 2014. And so there's roughly about 10,000 people in the city of Detroit who've been living off of completely off of bottled water for at least 6 years. And so with this, there's a lot of implications. Many of these people are frontline workers. They work in grocery stores, stocking food, cashiers. They work cleaning hospitals, doing transportation. So these are the frontline workers. And many of them, they were able before, right, this crisis to kind of fake it, because, they could send their kids to school or they could go to work and they could, clean themselves up in the bathroom and this and that. But in this land of social distancing, they don't have that as a luxury. And many people are, having to take their waste, to the backyard, and then, don't have ways to clean themselves. Many of them might have small children and babies or elders that they need to change, and they don't have the water that's necessary afterwards to like clean themselves up, and then they're going to work and serving people. And so this is how if we care about people, we're going to turn their water on, right? Our premise, number one, is that water is a human right. Water should be free. Everyone should have access to water. We're made of more than 70% water. The earth is made of more than 70% water. You need water to live. You can't live without water. So the fact that they're even charging for water is already that shouldn't be. But what we're contending is that if they are going to charge for water, then water must be affordable. And affordable meaning that people are able to pay the water bill, and it doesn't, absorb all their money from being able to pay their other bills or for their food or for their medicine or for the transportation or for the other things for the household that they need. And so We the People of Detroit has a water affordability bill. You can check it out on their website. Folks have been saying that the activists are lying because the head of the water department, Gary Brown, has said that activists are inflating the numbers. But like I said, he said that he's only going to cut on 1,200 homes because he only has a record of 1,200 people. And like I said, they purged their records. And so we've also got a petition. And so our petition, we've partnered with MoveOn.org. And in our petition, it's Frontline Detroit, MoveOn.org. And we're demanding that the mayor of the city of Detroit, Mayor Duggan, force Gary Brown, the head of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, to follow Governor Whitmer, the governor of Michigan's executive order to turn all water on. We're demanding that all water be turned on now. We only have a very tiny window because once this COVID, period is over, meaning they have a grace period for all these executive orders, which is pretty much the end of the month. Once that's over, they're going to start coming after people. Part of the issue too is that, when folks have their water cut off, that all that water sitting and settling has caused corrosion in some of the pipes. And so people say, that's not mine. I don't care. Right. So for the people who say they don't care, that's them. They should have paid their bill, blah, blah, blah. Listen, even if you don't have any empathy, how about the fact that if your neighbor's water is cut off, your water can be contaminated because their water has been sitting. Mm-hmm. And once that water goes through the system, you're going to be drinking and bathing and using contaminated water as well. And so it's incumbent upon everyone to make sure that everybody's water, because not only are we connected spiritually in the universe, but we're also connected through our water system, through our infrastructure. We all share water. So people that are saying that they should have paid their bill and this and that, that's a point that we need to continue to argue. And our Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, has a piece of legislature, the Water is a Human Right Act, that hopefully will get passed so that everyone in the nation will have access to water, because water is a human right. What we're fighting against right now is legislators, and I'm talking about even our local Detroit and Michigan senators, Black folks that grew up in the hood and grandmama still live on 8 Mile, are saying things like, water is a human right. Where they do that at? Or why should I pay their water bill? And blah, blah, blah. Our long-term strategy is that there's a water affordability bill. And what that means is that everyone will pay the same percentage. What happens right now is everyone pays the same amount. And if you're paying grandma can't afford to pay the amount that, Dan Gilbert can pay. And right. Dan Gilbert should pay more because he makes more. But if you're taking 10% from Dan Gilbert, or 10% from a doctor, or 10% from a teacher, or 10% from grandma, then that leaves everyone to be paying into the system. So you're getting something from everyone. And the system is able to be, to function because everyone's paying into it. On top of that, you've got corporations such as a monopoly, such as DTE, which is the monopoly power department, which that's a whole nother podcast. They owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in back water bills. Instead of going to DTE and other they're one corporation I've named, there's many, there's a long list. Instead of going to all of them, if it's a money thing, right? And they say they need their money, instead of going to these corporations and getting their money for their delinquent water bills, they're chasing after grandma, right? And cutting off grandma's money, and she's living on fixed income. Not only that, but that's what Detroit has been dealing with for since 2014, or almost a decade, right? That was the norm. When they say that activists are inflating the numbers, why didn't activists bring us people before? The reason that people weren't bringing you people and names and addresses is because the Detroit Water and Sewage Department organized with this 100,000 person aggressive shutoff to snatch people's children from their homes and to have the parents charged with neglect, child abuse, and all these other things, and have the child put into juvenile detention center. And this is over as little as 10 cents. And they would send child protective services and the Detroit Police Department to people's homes when they had a shutoff notice. That's why people weren't stepping up to say that their water was cut off. And when in 2014, when you're asking us to serve you up residents, but right now with the executive order in 2020, under the protection of the governor, we are asking you to find these people that you've deemed disposable because you purged them from your records, and find all these people. They're saying that the activists need to find these people. We need the Detroit Water and Sewage Department to get the invoices from the company that conducted the shutoffs, get those addresses from the company because if you could charge a bill to shut water off, then an invoice exists somewhere. Get those invoices, cross-reference them, and check and see who doesn't have water. They're saying that, they did a door-to-door, and that's why people don't have, water, because that the numbers are inflated because people weren't actually in those homes when they went by to go check door-to-door. Now, it might be true that some people aren't living in certain residences anymore, but also too, anybody that's done any sort of door-to-door, especially in the city of Detroit, some of these homes may look like nobody lives there because of all the things that they're going through. But many of these homes, people do actually live there. Whether it looks like they shouldn't be or not, a lot of people are living in these homes. And they're saying that, many of these homes are vacant and blah, blah, blah. This is not true. A lot of people are squatting. A lot of people are, maybe renting a room, right? There's different situations that people are in. I mean, there's people who, you know, are delinquent, but where their landlord is delinquent, but the person is renting a room from the landlord. Like there's all these different scenarios, right? But the point of the matter is that people need water, babies need water, families need water, elders need water, disabled need water. Everyone needs their water turned on right now, immediately. And we need folks to period. And we need folks to sign our petition, and we need folks to contact the mayor and tell the mayor to tell Gary Brown from the Detroit Water and Sewage Department to turn all water on now. So anyway,
now, today.
But we did a press conference this morning about it. So we'll get that out. Reverend Roz, who is from the Brightmoor Connection Soup Kitchen, we were able to get her onto Democracy Now! And that went really well. Amy Goodman, you know, I sent them an email with all of our facts, and Amy Goodman, you know, Democracy Now! Took it some time, and they researched all the facts that we gave them, and they said the facts over the air. They named the We the People book, Mapping the Water Crisis, with all the maps that show the historic terrorism that folks have been going through between the housing crisis or the mortgage scandal where they snatched people's homes. Quicken was a big part of that. A big benefactor, Dan Gilbert's company, of all the tax breaks that are going on right now to do development in the city of Detroit. It also showed that that's where all the school closures happened. This was an entire project that was conducted by the Skillman Foundation, who was tasked with providing resources for youth and education. And they created this whole right-sizing plan. And also, too, where they conducted the massive water shutoffs. And if you look at these maps, they're color-coded, and it shows all of these things were happening in the same exact areas. And guess what? Those are the hot spots for COVID. Is that a surprise? No, it's not. So anyway, that's enough on that for now. You know, we always talk about water on our podcast. How many water podcasts do we have, Brittany? 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, but it's needed. It's a human right.
It's an ongoing issue.
It's an ongoing issue.
Yeah, Pipe, that's amazing what you guys have been able to accomplish. So you definitely have my signature, and you definitely have my my love, because that takes a lot of energy. And again, it's very simple, like Deja said. Period. Like people, we just talked about how people don't have the living conditions to social distance at home and self-quarantine. And water is one of the biggest contributors to it. You got to bathe in it. You got to cook with it. You got to do a lot of things with water. So.
Oh, the name of the company is Homrich. It's called the Homrich Corporation. And the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, they paid them tens of thousands of dollars to cut the water off. They paid them about almost $8 million at the end to cut off the Detroiters' water. And so that corporation should have the addresses because they have the invoices, right? And so when they say that they don't know how to find these people, like that's how we need them to go find these people, and that's what our petition is about. And I mean, we have a street team that's out here in the streets delivering water every other day, doing deliveries of water. Do you know that it takes about 8 cases of bottled water per person, like per couple days? Did y'all know this?
No.
Like
that's how fast they go through it.
Well, that's how much it takes if you're bathing, cooking, and drinking, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's not sustainable. They could just turn the water on. Oh, one more thing. They said that Gary Brown said that he was going to hire, or he has contracted, the plumbers union, because like I said, many of these homes, if the water's been sitting, then the pipes are corroded. And so they need to go and fix people's pipes. And then once the water gets turned on, because, some of these pipes are corroded, they're leaky, all these other issues. And so that's another reason he's saying he doesn't want to turn it on. And so in that, he said he hired plumbers from the plumbers union. So we're just asking him or we're demanding that he get on that immediately, because if washing hands, I mean, definitely now, if washing hands is the main thing that what is it, the World Health Organization and the CDC are saying to do, then the way I see it is everyone's water needs to be on, and water needs to be free. If that's what we're talking about, right?
I agree
for sure.
So, all right, well, that's that. We had a bunch of other topics, but we've been talking a long time. I wonder if we could save those. The two topics I have are national topics. Is literally talking about Fauci with these immunization ID cards, but I can save that for another time. And I think the other one was literally well, I definitely wanted to just dig into that one for sure. And I think the other one was also about Trump benefiting from the vaccine, and how was it hydroxychloroquine, and how Trump is actually pushing that, pushing the vaccine, and how Bill Gates is a investor or benefactor of this vaccine. And I wanted to kind of dig into that, but that's going to be a whole nother show. And also too, I just
really
wanted to
dig
name
into that as well.
Yeah, I also just want to name that the state rep for my area where I live in Detroit, Karen Whitsett, she claims that she was recovered from this hydroxychloroquine. But I do want to name that she went to Henry Ford, and in Detroit, Henry Ford Health Systems has signed up to be the testing ground for this drug, and Detroit is the testing ground for this drug. And so her saying that, quote unquote, Trump saved my life and stuff like that, yeah, that's gonna be a bit hard for me to swallow. I'm really happy that she's better, right? Like, no shade on that. I'm glad she's better or whatever. But yeah, that whole marketing thing, like, I got the side eye. I'm kind of done with her on that. Because for me, I'd have just been like, oh yeah, I tried it. It worked. Let's just see. You know what I'm saying? I gave myself up as a guinea pig. Pray for me. I hope there's no side effects. But she was all over the internet talking about Trump saved my life if it wasn't for him. And I mean, she was like literally going on a campaign. So I'm like, man, I know. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
I'm like, but were there
I definitely want to dig into 5G, not the conspiracy theory, but I want to dig into the battle online. You got the engineers who are trying to break down 5G to people. You got people who work for companies that install 5G coming out saying they know it's hazardous. So I just want to dig into that a lot. And the connection to, it being basically a Kickstarter supposedly for the coronavirus being able to enter the body and affect the body the way that it does as well. So
wow. Well, I'll say this much. Yeah, let's put those as future topics for next week. I really appreciate that, y'all have continued to do this show. I know to the folks who normally listen, we appreciate your patience and waiting for us to bring you another show.
Yes.
We tried some different tools. We just weren't able to make those tools work for us. And so we're coming to you through Zoom. And that's going to be on all our streaming platforms. So you'll be able to continue to pick us up on all streaming platforms. And hopefully we're bringing you information that you feel is useful. I think next week we will get back to bringing in some clips and things like that to share so that folks can actually also hear the stuff that we're saying out of these different, news outlets and interviews and things. And anything else you guys want to share with folks?
Just, keep whatever keeps you happy at the front of your mind through all of this and wash your hands.
What about you, Britt?
I want to shout out More Herbs, a small Black business on 7 Mile. When we are able to come out of this, we need to support them.
Do they do delivery?
I don't know. That's a good question, but
ask
I
them
want to
if
shout
they
them.
do delivery. We'll promote them on the show.
Okay, that sounds good. But fill your mind and your body up with things that are beneficial and productive. So, that's about it. Wash your hands, as Deja would say.
Yeah, I guess for me, just appreciate that folks are still sticking with us. We didn't do our normal libations. There's so many people to do libations for. I think I want to just do like just a thank you to everyone who has been, on the front lines, whether you're in a grocery store or, bus drivers. It's still people doing lifts and, uh, people cleaning hospitals and, doctors, nurses, people stocking. Our girl Sanaa is working, at Whole Foods. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that people get things that they need. Like there's people that we love that's out here, making sure that people have their needs. So just want to send all of them so much gratitude and just prayers of protection and just appreciation, for all that you're doing, you know what I'm saying, to continue to just go to work every day to make sure that people have what they need. And I want to send some love and some comfort to all the people who have lost somebody due to this disease. I just want to send you so much love. You've gained an ancestor. Just know that you've gained a strong ancestor now who is with you, guiding you, helping you, looking over you, protecting you. And just want to send you some comfort and some strength for whoever you've lost, because that probably could have, some of them probably were sudden and some of them probably you'd been waiting for a long time. But just want to send you something to ease your heart. And then I want to send something to people who are impacted in a way that we three aren't. For people who actually have COVID, corona, who have been in the hospital and now they're out and they're recovering and getting your breathing back and getting your sense of taste and smell back and getting your good feelings about life back and getting your faith back and your hope back. I want to send you lots of love and lots of appreciation for fighting for your life and fighting for yourself, and just send you some more love and some more healing that you need to get through this. And I think there's a lot of healing remedies, herbs, and things. Like Brittany said, I think next week we could dig into that for our show a little bit and talk a little bit more about that. There are a lot of shows who are talking about that, but I think we could go through some things and share some different resources and recipes and things for folks that are dealing with that. I do know that steaming is working with essential oils, like eucalyptus and I do know that drinking teas and herbs like with lemon, ginger, and garlic and onion. I know that, those are working really well for people. I know that adding all those into your foods that you make. So just want to send everybody that's dealing with all of this just so much love to y'all. Like Brittany and Deja said, this is gonna we're shifted now. This is our new society. We're all figuring things out. So we just appreciate y'all. But we're continuing to bring this to you on Detroit is Different. And you can go to DetroitisDifferent.com to learn about different Detroiters, and DetroitisDifferent.net to learn about all the shows. And of course, follow us on social media. Deja, what's our Instagram?
Our Instagram is pc.podcast. pc.podcast on Instagram.
And so you want to follow us there. And then, so just keep checking us out. We love y'all and we appreciate y'all. Peace.
Appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, I love you and I miss you both. I can't wait to see you guys again, but I'll talk to y'all next week.
I know. We miss you too, Brittany. Love you all.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and always listen on Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Store, and Spotify.